As growers, we have very little control of what we do. I mean, we don't set what our input costs are. We don't set what we get to sell our product for. So whatever we can do to try and save money, to help our bottom line is what we do. So on our regenerative aspect, if we're able to use less chemicals, you do less tractor passes, that helps our bottom line. And I think, like, as growers, a lot of times we forget that the soil's a living thing too. We always worry about what's on top, but we don't worry about what's underneath. And if we treat the soil right, it'll treat us right. I mean, nature's been doing this a lot longer than we have. So we kind of we got away from harnessing nature a little bit and going more chemical route. So that's kind of just how I've evolved in it, just to try and save our bottom line and use nature as kind of our helper. My name's Andrew Petrini, and I am I guess it'd be third generation farmer. Went to Cal Poly, majored in wine and viticulture, and then after school I started working for a small family farm outfit, because it's kind of what I've come from, is family farming operations, and managed for him for about 10 years until he retired. And then an opportunity came up to lease ground on the Burns farm, and we ended up planting olives for olive oil and some almonds. My dad grew up on that ranch. He actually lived on the ranch, went to school across the street, and this is in the 40s. When he was young, he would be in class and see something broke down across the street, and he would walk across and help the guys and then go back to class. And so it's kind of a cool thing to be back on that ranch farming in kind of our new styles, so many years later. 99% of my farming is in the Delta, and the Delta is a very, very unique place. It's a good fit for some of the ground that we farm on, but we grow rice, sweet corn, tomatoes, cucumbers, and then almonds and olives. And so we're growing a whole mix of different things just to be diversified, because in agriculture, some things usually up and then other things down, and you're trying to balance it out. A habitat perspective and ecosystem perspective, I mean, you've got the San Francisco Bay is 50, 60 miles to the west of us. You have all these rivers that are converging into this area. It's built up of what we call islands, which are there's levee systems or river systems that are surrounding these tracts of land. There's different soil types. It's not like vast open land like if you go into Southern California or in the Central California, the valley. So it just brings unique challenges. There's a lot of good aspects. There's a lot of challenging aspects of it, but it's just a unique place. When we started doing the regenerative approach, we started to see several things. We noticed that we don't irrigate as much as what I would expect to be typical. Part of that is just from a regenerative farming aspect, the soil holding capacity is much higher with water. We do extensive soil testing and tissue testing, and so we monitor the levels of the trees, we monitor the levels of even our row crops, we monitor the levels of the soil, and we notice that either, if it's staying flat, our nutrient levels are going up or going down. We're able to adjust based off of that. But it's a slow process, but we have seen increased soil health, and we don't have the disease pressure that you could have. Doing regenerative definitely has challenges. There's just the learning aspect for one, and watching that pendulum and how far one way or the other are you swinging. So in the beginning, we were probably going a little bit too hard on not fertilizing and not using sprays, and we would see decline in the tree health and disease pressure, pest pressure. And so it's, at least from my experience, getting into the regenerative is kind of a gradual step. You can't just cold turkey it. You have to work your way into it with a mix of doing more cover cropping, composting, in a combination to maybe some synthetic fertilizers to help you get to that point to where you can make that switch. And we've had that where we started cold turkey, and it was very challenging. And so then we started to adopt doing combination of both, and now we're kind of swinging towards where we can use far less chemicals, far less synthetic fertilizers, and use the natural approach, or the regenerative approach, to maintain sustainable yields. I think more farms aren't taking the regenerative approach. I think the number one factor is it's just new, right? Farmers are sometimes stuck in their own ways or set in their own ways and don't like change, and so it's a different mindset. There's a saying that we're doing it this way because Grandpa did it this way, and that's a mindset that has to change, and it is changing with people of like my generation, and I think we're gonna get there. It's slow. The thing about farming is we work in terms of years, right? Like, so a lot of times I look at it and I think, well, I only have 25 crops left. So that's not a lot. Really, it's not a lot of crops, but it's slow to transition. But I think eventually, like, the consumer is going to demand it and want it more. Everybody wants to know where their food's coming from and how it's grown and the story with it. And I think more on a broad spectrum of growers are going to have to start converting to it, because that's where the market's going to drive it. I wouldn't say it's more work, but it's definitely more attention to detail. And it's hard when you're busy and you have to cover a lot of acres and you just boom, boom, boom to get through it. Where regenerative, you have to think 2 and 3 steps ahead. And that's just the mindset that we have to shift to, is that's just what we're going to have to do, because that's where we are going. I would say talk to people that are doing it. I mean, research, there's a lot of seminars and classes that are on it. Again, talk to different growers that are doing it. Go look. Just pick one thing in a regenerative program, whatever it is, whether it's cover cropping or composting, and just try it and do it on a small scale and see how it fits your farming program, and expand from there. Just don't jump in with both feet, and I think people will see that it's the way to go. Working with Farmland LP has been a very good experience. They've been good partners to us. We were the first ones on the Burns farm to put permanent crops. So that was a big deal. So it was a big trust factor between us and Farmland LP. Even though it is an investment company, it doesn't have the investment company type feel. I mean, the guys that I deal with on a day-to-day basis for farmland, there's like your guys you grew up with type. So it doesn't feel like a big change, like somebody's coming in and gobbling up a bunch of ground and doing their own thing. Still kind of left to farm how you farm and work all together.